You show up in your vulnerability when you have love present. You show up in your joy and your happiness and your laughter when there is love. You show up in your pain and your grief and your sadness, your shame and your guilt where there is love. You show up in all of these different facets of yourself with another. It is all love. Some love is deeper than others. Some love is based on a soul connection. Some love isn't. There are varying degrees of love. Some love will take lifetimes to grow, and some love just exists between two people. It is not something for you to judge or decide. It is something for you to feel. It is something for you to understand, specifically about yourself and how you give and receive love and how you determine what love is for you. Try to stay out of judgment of somebody else's journey in love.
Welcome to the Akashic Recordings. My name is Annette DeLu. I'm an Akashic conduit, channel, and spiritual guidance coach. What you will be hearing today is a real session with one of my clients. All the names have been changed for privacy, and of course, with their permission, we are privileged to hear these beautiful stories to allow us a small glimpse into the Akashic Records. If you would like to book a session with me and be part of the podcast, please feel free to head to my website at infinitesoullove.com. When you book your session, just make sure to check the box that you would be interested in having your session utilized for the podcast. For those of you who really wanted to sign up for Soul Discovery Workshop, I have great news for you. You can head to my website, and on the homepage, if you go to the little box that describes Soul Discovery Workshop, there is a button there that says sign up for the wait list. So if you want to be in the know and want to be the very first one to sign up for the next session of Soul Discovery Workshop online, feel free to head to my website at infinitesoullove.com. Go to that homepage, click sign up for the wait list, and send your email, phone number, as well as your first and last name. And I will make sure you get that registration email as soon as the next course is ready to launch. In addition, you will get a discount code for the early bird sign up. So if you are interested, head over there now.
This week we are joined again by Hannah, and this is a session that took place roughly about a year after the session you heard last week. For the sake of clarification, I want to mention that she is speaking of two different gentlemen during the session. The first gentleman is the one that she spoke about in last week's session, which she severed the connection about 6 months after the session from last week. The second gentleman is somebody who she met who was friends with said first gentleman. They ended up in a relationship together, and it was really healthy. And then one of the reasons why the gentleman broke it off was because of the friendship that he had with the first person. Some of this might get a little confusing because I did cut out all of the names. So if it starts to not make sense in tiny bits and pieces, this is the reason why I'm giving you this context. Here are some of the subjects we cover during this session. What it means to follow your intuition and the difference between following your intuition and your thoughts or your ego. We talk a little bit about future predicting and how reliable or unreliable it can be. We talk about resistance and whether it is something that is showing you something that you need to work on, or maybe is it a redirection from the universe. And last but not least, and to me this is probably the most important topic, which is what does it mean to be in love with someone? So stay tuned to the discussion portion, which I go into a lot more detail about this subject.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Oh, just going through the motions. How are you?
Doing okay. Just going through the motions, huh?
Just going through the motions. It's been an interesting year since the last time I talked to you.
Has it? Tell me what's been going on.
Well, the gentleman that I talked to you about last year, it's like back and forth for 6 years, ended up moving down the street from me about 3 months ago.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, no shit. It was one of those, I haven't talked to you in 6 months now, 7 months, something like that. And then through a guy that I was talking to, who's a mutual friend, and was kind of seeing, he's like, just so you know, moving down the street. And I'm like, oh, perfect. Just what I needed. I'm like, this is the universe test right here, isn't it?
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
So have you seen him?
Oh, yeah. I ran into him beginning of May.
Okay.
We've been talking, not in that way, but I'm being cordial.
Right. Got it. Fascinating. So what else is going on?
Yeah, it was something. So through him, I actually met one of his friends and we started hanging out and seeing each other, which was really great. And I had this moment of, oh, this is what I've been waiting for. This is everything that I've wanted, blah, blah, blah. It was pretty great. It was an unexpected kind of feeling and an unexpected connection. And then he ended up moving to Charlotte. And I'm like, long distance isn't a big deal for me, whatever. But long story short, his connection that he has he feels like it's not okay for us to be in a connection. And so he's pulled back because of that. And I'm like, you know what? Dang it. Like, you're still controlling my love life, even though we're not even anything. Yeah, they were good friends.
Got it. Okay. So that has become sort of a hindrance at that point.
Yeah, he's a really good friend of mine. Like, I don't feel like I can move forward with this because then what will happen with that friendship, sort of a thing. He will not be okay with it. What do you do? I'm like, well, that's his problem, not mine, but you have to make that decision.
Right. Got it. So then what would you like to tap into for today?
So there's a few things, and I've been listening to a lot of the podcasts the past week or so and to prep. But one, the reason that I kind of felt drawn to either have another conversation with you or to do the workshop that you're doing that starts in mid-August. And I did some meditation on it and I asked, my spirit guides, I'm like, okay, should I do this? Is this time? And they said no. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm not ready. So that's when I reached out to you and I'm like, well, I was going to sign up, but the message that I'm getting is no. So maybe this isn't the right time. So I have a question around why is it not the right time? If it's not the right time, if they can share that. And maybe it's just I need to learn and grow more. So something around that in terms of, is there something else that I need to be doing instead? And then there was a question around just the whole dynamic. I feel like these guys come into my life and then they leave. And I'm just like, I feel like I need help with maybe my impatience right now a little bit.
Okay.
And I was just listening to one of your podcasts about like stopping the worry of timelines and everything else. And I think I'm just like, come on already. Like, I'm ready. So working on how I can meditate better, control my energy better, or anything with that. I think I've grown a lot from last year in terms of the way that I've respond in my relationships. And so I thought like it was really healthy. And I think the way that I'm handling it right now is relatively healthy. But if there's anything around that I need to know, and that kind of goes to just love versus boundaries versus authenticity. And I'm at that point where I'm like, okay, I want to put up my boundary, but I also want them to know that I'm still loving and I love and care about them. So I don't want to be a dick.
Right.
But also I need to do this. And so it's like, how am I drawing those lines in the right way?
Let's see where the guides want us to go first. Okay. They want us to open the records and then we're going to dive in and take a look at what might need to be addressed. And then also we're going to take a look at some of the soul contracts.
Okay.
See if you have any soul contracts, if that connection is meant to go somewhere or not. I also want to say that doesn't mean that you can't make it work if you don't have a soul contract. It just means that if you do have a soul contract, then there is something you're meant to do together. If you don't, then it's basically free will.
Okay.
Yeah, you've done a lot of work here. I'm seeing like a really bright orange light. It looks really good. I don't see any blockages here right now. I'm smelling oranges and just a really fresh energy. I mean, you're doing a really, really good job of being in your divine feminine. The challenge that you're having has mostly to do with how you used to be. It's more of a habit. So like how you used to be and how you used to operate. And you're operating in this new energy now, and it's really great. And the only thing that is giving you pause is the aspects that sort of creep up from time to time from the past. All right. So I'm seeing in the solar plexus chakra, they're showing me some blue and green mold almost. And they're saying this is from a past life. This is something that has surfaced recently, having to do with your own personal power. They're saying that this is a past life that would not have come up prior to now. There were some things that you would have had to sort of address and move through in order for this to come about. Okay. So we'll take a look at that lifetime. You felt like having your heart wide open would automatically attract that beautiful love to you. And so now that your heart is wide open, you're like, why isn't it here? I'm hearing that you've tried to make certain things fit that didn't. And this is something we'll get into when we get into the main reading, but there's something about some of the experiences that you've had recently that it's like you're trying to make it what you want, even though it's not. Yeah, your crown chakra looks good, actually. It's nice and open, but there's not a whole lot of activity going on. They're showing me like a lot of calm and a lot of space, as opposed to you getting a lot of downloads and a lot of things happening. There's just a lot of stillness. So it's not that you're not getting messages. It's just that there's not a whole lot of messages to be had at the moment. And is that because she's on her path? It is. Okay. Yeah. I'm hearing you say, like, I don't know what I'm seeing. And so there are some times when you are getting information and you don't really know how to interpret it. You don't know how to take the information. They're going to help us to understand why that is. Oh, okay. Interesting. They're saying it's almost as if your heart, your mind, and your intuition are operating completely separately. So like you'll focus in on your intuition and you'll get that information. And then you'll focus in on your thoughts and you get that information. And then you focus in on your heart and you get that information, but you're not looking at all of the information together.
Very accurate.
And then identifying like what is the truth in the information. Yeah. Okay. I'm seeing a really beautiful, bright blue light and it's got little flecks of glitter in it. But then at the base, there is still this element of like a darker blue. It's about the things that are hidden that you want to say. Does this have to do with a past life? It does. Okay. Almost as if the things that you speak are very kind or very beautiful or very, compassionate, but it's not the truth. What might be behind it is a bit darker, a bit more frustration, a bit more anger. And so you're not fully expressing your feelings on certain subjects. And this is a pattern or a conditioning from a previous life that you've just sort of carried on into this life. It's like these feelings that you have inside that you're really not able to express. And sometimes, we don't need to express those things to the people that we want to say them to, but we can express them in other ways. Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to thank Akula, my Akashic guide. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Archangel Metatron and Archangel Sandalphon for being here as well. Thank you for opening up the Akashic Records. Thank you. Okay. All right. So we're going to go to that solar plexus chakra issue. All right, let's take a look at that first lifetime that we need to look at. So they're showing me almost like something that is leapfrogging over lifetime. So it's like you had this issue in this lifetime, and then we're going back several more lifetimes, and then you had it in that lifetime, and then you're going back several lifetimes. So it's like something that has popped up over the course of many, many lifetimes, but it doesn't pop up in every single lifetime. It's like every so often it just kind of pops its head up and then goes back away for a while. Do we need to look at the origin point of this? We do. Okay. So that's going further back. Yes. Okay. All right. Let's take a look, please. This is something that goes as far back as Atlantis. Okay. And they're showing me a man and a woman. They're acknowledging that there are two different lifetimes in Atlantis that this sort of played out. And then they're going to give us the reason why it continues to happen sporadically throughout your lifetimes. All right. Which one are we going to start with? The life where she was a female? Yes. Okay. All right. So I'm seeing you as quite beautiful in this lifetime. And I'm getting the words regal. You have a gold crown on your head. You have gold adornments. You have sort of like this sash going across your body. They're not saying that you were a queen or a king in any respect, because back then in Atlantis, the structure was different. They didn't have kings or queens per se, but they did have what they would consider to be royalty that were at the heads of government or the heads of, I guess government would be the best way to describe it. I'm seeing there were 12 people who had this position, both men and women. People respected you and respected your opinions, respected your intellect. You had a lot to offer. I'm seeing you have a lot to offer with city planning. I'm seeing you looking at plans of some sort. And for example, there's like a bridge being built and you're giving advice on where to build the bridge. They were slating it to be in one place and you're suggesting another, as it would be more beneficial in that place. And I'm seeing everybody applaud you, and they went and built the bridge where you told them to build it, and it was perfect. It was great. I'm hearing some of the workers that are sort of not working for you, but they're sort of lower tier of class than you are. And they're saying to you, like, how do you know this information? And you're saying that it is because you connect to your intuition. Because they're expressing to you that the place where you told them to build the bridge doesn't make any sense. Like, to them, logically, if they were to look at it from an engineering standpoint, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to build it there. But once they took a look at it and once you suggested it, they realized that it does make sense and it is possible. There were a few adjustments that needed to be made. I'm seeing that one of the embankments was eroded at the river. And so that was one of the reasons why they didn't consider it, is because it was too difficult to build a solid foundation. But you suggested all they have to do is take the bridge construction back further so it doesn't actually meet up with the embankment. And then that way it will have its own solid base due to the bedrock in the cliff itself. And this was just something that had never been thought of. You were used to these types of things happening to you all the time. You would have an idea, somebody would execute that idea, and it would work out great. And it was for this reason that you had a little bit of an ego regarding you always being right. You were riding the wave of this connecting to your intuition and having everything unfold the way that it was meant to unfold. The problem is, because of the ego and the surety that everything that you suggest is perfect and correct, that you actually stopped listening to your heart and your intuition and started getting too much in your head, in your intellect. And the very first time this affected you was you had made a suggestion and it didn't work out. It was, in fact, a complete disaster. And you couldn't believe that this was happening because your intuition is always spot on. It's always correct. But at that moment when you gave the advice, you were not in your intuition. You were in your ego and your brain, and you didn't check in with your heart. It's the reason why you second guess, because I'm hearing you say, I thought I was in my intuition. I thought that was coming from my intuition. I know the difference. Like, why did that turn out so horribly? And it was having to do with some sort of mining. You had sent a bunch of people to mine some rock in order to build something, and the mine collapsed and it killed a couple of people. Okay. So it was a dual lesson. It was a lesson to connect to your intuition, to your heart, and to know the difference between the heart and the head. Also, just because you follow your intuition doesn't mean things are always going to turn out exactly the way that you think they are. So it was kind of a two-pronged lesson you were learning there. Okay. So what that created in you is a lot of self-doubt that you can trust your intuition, that you can trust what you're getting. And they're saying to me that this is part of the reason why they told you not to take the workshop, is because you needed to work through this first. Okay. All right. So is there anything else that we need to know about that particular lifetime? No. But we are going to move into the subsequent lifetime after, where she was the man. Okay. So is this a lifetime directly after this one? Yes. Okay. So in this next lifetime, you became essentially a monk, for a lack of a better term. That's not what they were called there, but it was somebody who was focusing their life on connection to the divine, connection to the earth, connection to all that is. And that started you down the path of seeking the deeper meanings, seeking the difference between the ego, the intuition, all of those things. Philosophy had really gripped you at an early age in that lifetime. And so you really wanted to study it. You wanted to know the reason why people do certain things. the reason why certain things happen. So you're seeing like a small war break out, and you're analyzing it from the perspective of, okay, is this just a bunch of people in their egos, or is this something that is meant to happen? And so you started going down this path of really identifying and analyzing and trying to figure out, like, which is it? Is it being disconnected from your intuition, or is this meant to happen? And this is sort of an echo from the previous lifetime with the mind collapse, that you couldn't figure out, like, was this meant to happen? Like, for example, with the soul contracts of the people who died in that mine, they may have had it in their soul contracts that they were meant to die in that way at that time. And in which case, any amount of planning or intuition would not have stopped that. So you're at this place in this lifetime as this man who is seeking to really try to understand the intricacies of how the universe works. You spent a lot of time observing, and each time something new came up, it really made you feel like you knew nothing. And it's really funny because the previous version of yourself in that previous lifetime was so certain and so sure and so connected to her intuition that she never once thought that there was a possibility that you could not be connected to your intuition. And it wasn't until she started having those feelings of doubt and emotions regarding what she could trust within herself was when all of this seeking started coming into play and the path opened up for you to explore. You did a lot of writing in that lifetime. You wrote down a lot of hypotheses, a lot of observations. It's almost as if in that lifetime, you barely lived that lifetime, because you just spent the entire lifetime observing others and writing it down and creating hypotheses. And part of that reason too is because you lost your confidence. You lost your confidence in your own intuition. So you figured, well, I can't really tap in unless I'm certain I know how it works. And once I know how it works, then I can start tapping in again. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's almost as if over the course of the next lifetimes, you would get to a point where you would get back into the flow of your intuition and the flow of life and where your higher self wants to take you. And it's almost like there would be this little reminder that pops up about this past life, and it stops you in your tracks. And you're like, yeah, but my intuition was wrong that time. And so maybe I should not be so certain about these things. Maybe I should not be so rigid in the way that I think about things. And to you, the part of the reason why this is in the solar plexus is because it really feels like it's taking away your personal power in your own intuition. And so this is helping you to get back on track, to not only have the confidence, but also to understand when things are out of your control. Meaning that there are just certain things that we're not meant to know. There are certain things we're not meant to divine, to know the future. And this has been the lesson you've been learning. Okay, so is there anything else we can do to clear out that energy? No. It's something that will clear out on its own once she gains more confidence in herself and her intuition and starts to understand the incredible nuance that has to do with following your intuition and understanding that there is a greater orchestration at large. And sometimes we're just being guided to our own little piece, but there is something much bigger out there that is being orchestrated. Okay. I'm going to pause there for a second. Do you have any questions about that?
I don't have any questions. It makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Because I'm constantly, do you want the level-headed logical, or do you want the emotional passionate, which is like that constant back and forth between my head and my heart?
And what you don't realize is that you can be both at the same time. But the thought of doing that, it makes your whole brain explode. You're like, I don't know, how can those things really exist in the same space? But they can. Yeah. They're saying to me that the mind is really important for intuition. And let me explain why. There are times when we get intuitions, but it doesn't give us the entire message. Okay. So let's say I ask a question about the future. Is it in my highest timeline to relocate to the south of France, let's say? And I might get a yes. But let's say I don't ask about the timing. Let's say I don't ask about the circumstances. And I just take that intuition and say, okay, I meant to move to the south of France. All right, I'm going to start packing my bags and I'm just going to go. Where my logical brain steps in and says, well, you don't have an apartment there yet. You have to look at places you want to live. You don't know where you want to live yet. You don't know how that's going to come about. Like, you don't know what circumstances are going to be falling into place in order for that to happen. So maybe don't just pack your bags yet. Maybe start doing some research first. That's where the logical brain comes in and says, hey, maybe you should start doing this. It's like this tennis match between the logical, the brain, the gut, the heart, the intuition, the higher self, your guides. And so you get the intuition that, yeah, okay, you're meant to move somewhere. But then maybe the answer is, oh yeah, you're not going to move there for another 5 years. And the reason why you're going to move there is because, let's say you're going to meet somebody or something like that. Like, it's going to be some circumstance that's going to have you go there. Whereas right now, it might not make logical sense to do so. And so maybe you just say, well, I got this intuition, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, so I'm not going to do it. The brain and the mind can come in with logic and help you to sort of right yourself in your intuition, in how you're feeling. So, okay, cool, I got this intuition. Could that potentially change though? Yeah, sometimes I could meet somebody tomorrow who changes the trajectory of that. And maybe I end up going somewhere else. And maybe I end up not moving to the south of France at all anymore, right? There are a lot of things that the brain helps with in that respect. So does that make sense? How I sort of describe that, how you can use the brain, the intellect, the heart, the intuition all together to sort of see what is in your highest good at that time?
It does. I think it's, for me, I need to maybe just settle down. I know that the answer isn't going to be right there and then, and I need to just observe and feel and think. And then maybe, to your point, it doesn't go anywhere for now, but
right.
I know that I had that feeling.
To answer your question that you had at the beginning, which is, all right, when you're not getting an answer, or let's say the intuition is coming in and it just doesn't feel like the right time or the right place, what do you do in the meantime? Like, what do you do in order to allow the flow of your life to continue without constantly trying to figure it out or constantly trying to be in a space of comfort because you know what's going to happen? Because how often do we know what's going to happen and it turns out exactly the way that we know it's going to happen? Rarely. Like, you can predict things, certainly. You can predict future things, certainly. But it often unfolds in a way that you would have never imagined.
Right.
And the holding on to needing to know is what blocks some of that flow. And the reason why I know this is because I am 100% guilty of that. I have struggled myself with that. Like, I want to know what's going to happen. I want to know how this is going to unfold. And the universe is like, nope, sorry. You can't know, but you have to go with the flow. So I'm dealing with this very viscerally and very specifically with me staying in Paris right now. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know that I don't want to be here anymore. I feel like it's not the place for me anymore, but I don't know where I'm going. And the universe is not being helpful right now. And I know that it's about right timing, right place. So what do I do in the meantime?
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, I work on being happy here. I work on being in a place of acceptance for where I am. And so I'm looking at this as a training ground. So, okay, well, why am I not happy here? Okay, well, I've listed all the reasons why I'm not happy here. What are the things that I can change? What are the things that I can do something about? What are the things that I can't do something about? And how can I avoid those things if I don't want to experience them, right? So it's about appreciating and acknowledging where you are in this current moment, even if it's a place that you don't want to be. So in your case, feeling like you got really close to this connection with this person, and then having it go away, and then being in that space of like, well, I'm ready for a relationship. I'm ready for that beautiful divine connection, and it's not here. So what do I do in the meantime? What you do in the meantime is continue to do the inner work in order to make yourself aligned with exactly what you want. If you were to sort of take a look at some of the things that you had with this last person you dated, what would you consider in the connection to be something that you would want to work on? Either his behavior, your behavior, connection together, what would be something you would want to work on?
I think for the most part with him, I was pretty upfront and honest about how I was feeling and what I needed, which I historically was not doing. I would let it go for a long time. I think one of the halts for me was I don't feel like he was communicating properly with me. Like, I don't really know exactly how he was feeling or what he wanted or needed. And that put me on sort of the backside of things where I'm like, okay, well, I'm constantly trying to just guess where your head's at. I can't do that. And so the times in between when we would spend time with each other, that just sort of sitting in that unknowing and just being like, okay, well, you know what? Like, you're going to do what you're going to do. So I should just do what I'm going to do and we'll just see what happens, as opposed to me trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that's a little bit about what the guides were saying earlier, that even though this felt like a really good connection, it actually was something that you were settling for that you are not wanting to have in a relationship. So what you're looking for first and foremost is that reciprocal connection, the reciprocal communication, and the emotional maturity to be able to handle that. And it's not to say that he doesn't have the emotional maturity for that, because they're saying that he does, but he just doesn't know where to seek that out. So like, you know how you could be sitting on information, but not know how to access it, like not know how to crack the code and open it up. He doesn't know how to ask himself what he's feeling and how to express it. He doesn't know how to ask himself where he is and what he needs, and then be able to communicate it. So it's a two-part process. First, he has to figure out what he needs and figure out how he feels. And then he needs to communicate it. And he was not able to do either one of those things.
Right. He pulled back and then came back weeks later and was like, I was falling in love with you. And then we had a really great couple of weeks and then he pulled back again. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's because if you don't know how to express and know what you're feeling, then that type of thing is going to happen. So for example, the feelings he was having for you were connected to your energy. They were connected to your frankness and how you felt in your vulnerability. The way he felt also was connected to the fact that he felt very seen by you. And that's not something he's had often in his life. And so what he probably could have said to you instead of, I think I'm falling in love with you, although, I mean, it's a nice thing to say, it would have been more accurate had he said, I feel like I could potentially be vulnerable with you where I haven't been vulnerable with others. Your vulnerability is showing me where I need to be vulnerable. I see how you see me and I feel seen, but I don't know how to see myself. That would have been the more accurate depiction of what he was feeling. And it's not to say he wasn't falling in love with you, because I think that that was also happening at the same time. But what does that really mean when somebody is falling in love? What does that mean to that individual person? What does it mean to you? Falling in love with somebody means different things to different people. I mean, love is love no matter what, but what creates that bond and that connection? And sometimes it's energetic, sometimes it's purely energetic. Sometimes it has to do with the energy, and sometimes it has to do with the physical aspect of how you interact. And weirdly enough, I get a lot of people arguing with me about this. Weirdly enough, from what I've seen in the records, the actual physical attraction to somebody is a very small percentage of why we end up with the people that we do.
Yeah, he's not my type. And I rejected him for like 2 years. So it was like, nope, nope, nope.
Yeah.
So
that's not surprising. So it's one of those things where when our energies get into alignment in some way, that's when that attraction starts happening. I use the example a lot where you could see somebody who's very, very attractive. I've experienced this a lot in my life, where you see a man or a woman who's incredibly attractive, but then you see their energy or their behavior and you're just like, oh, okay. Like instantly they become not attractive. Even if physically with your eyes, you look at them and you're like, yeah, they're attractive. Like I can see their face is symmetrical, all of those things. But like the energy that precedes them basically overtakes any amount of physical beauty that anybody has. So he was completely blindsided by your energy. He was completely taken by your energy, and vice versa, because he is actually growing as well. And there was a time when you did get together where your energies were aligned. And the problem is that when somebody is going through an awakening of sorts, regardless of whether it's spiritual or not, an awakening to, let's say, past traumas, an awakening to things that you've done in your life that you want to change, whatever that awakening looks like, it's going to have ups and downs. So it's almost like when you connected with him, you activated him in the things that he needs to address and work on in his life. And so if you can imagine the two of you going up this hill, and you're traveling up this hill together, you're walking hand in hand, and you continue to walk up the hill. And where he was walking, there was like a part of the hill that just broke and he kind of fell down the cliff. So you're continuing to walk up the hill. He just fell down a cliff and he's got to figure out his way back up. That's essentially what happened.
Okay.
So by him falling off the cliff, that's him diving down deep into his shadow to figure out what he needs to do to be more emotionally available, more emotionally mature, to communicate in an emotional way that is productive, that is authentic and real. And that is something that he is going through right now. And when somebody falls off a cliff like that, you don't need to be part of that because that's a journey that they have to go on.
Okay. Is there anything that, one of the things that I've felt with a lot of my relationships, not just with males, is there something that I'm supposed to be teaching him? Because there are times that I've sent him things and I'm like, I feel like I'm freaking teaching you. Like, come on. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't want to be doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel like you need this information. And so there's even like a text message right now that I haven't sent because I'm like, I feel like you need to hear this, but I also don't want to be the one constantly like shoving this in your face.
Right.
Because it's at my role to do that.
We can see from the outside exactly what the person is going through. Unfortunately, that outside perspective clarity is not often seen by the person who needs it. And you can point it out to them, certainly, but unless they're ready to face it and unless they're ready to see it, they're not going to pay attention. It'll go right in one ear and out the other. My philosophy on that is unless they're asking for help, to just refrain from sending things like that, unless it is a conversation. So for example, if you and he had a conversation about, I don't know, astral projection or something like that, you had a conversation about all this stuff and he was curious and he was like, yeah, I don't know what that's all about, blah, blah, blah. And you found an article that explains it really well and you sent that article to him. Perfect. Like that's a scenario in which you can share information in that way. But unsolicited information that is basically like, hey, by the way, here's all your wounding. This is what you need to work on. The person is likely not going to be receptive to that until they're ready.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It comes off in layers, you know. It's interesting because I was looking at some old notes in my phone because I make little notes on my notepad in my phone.
Me too.
And I just saw a TikTok recently. There's this comedian guy who was like, does every woman have like a whole novel written in notes in her phone? And I'm like, yep.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep, we all do. I went back to some of the things that I'd written and was actually pretty shocked that some of the same concepts and some of the same things that I'm working on in my life now, I actually pegged those things like 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And I'm like, geez, like, why is this taking me so long? You know, like clearly I knew about it back then. Like, why haven't I dealt with it yet?
Right.
But the thing is that it comes off in layers. I have dealt with it and I have acknowledged it and I have worked on it. It's just, it comes in steps and it comes in layers. You can only master something by approaching a particular situation over and over again. You can only master a situation by being vulnerable over and over and over again and being able to be comfortable with it. It takes time. Now, part of the reason why I feel like specifically we as divine feminines, as women, if you're going to talk about traditional, I guess, gender types, that men are taught for so long to not show emotion and to not get in touch with their emotions and to not show vulnerability. And that is changing now. I think that there is a feeling of, oh, well, we have to show them how to do it because they were never taught. And while that is true to an extent, it is only true if the person is willing and having a desire to make those changes and to be in that space of vulnerability.
Is it worth it to show like your own vulnerability and just be like, hey, like this is how I'm feeling. My feelings haven't changed, but I'm not going to chase you or
absolutely
try to make something fit that doesn't work.
Yes, that is a beautiful way to express your authenticity, your feelings, your emotions, while still holding your own self-worth at high regard and saying, I'm not willing to chase you. I'm not willing to do anything else that is not going to result in a balanced energetic exchange. but this is how I feel. Obviously, you can say it in more human terms than that. That's a very, spiritual speak way of saying it, but you can put it in a way that feels good for you. But certainly that is something that you can say.
Okay.
All right. So that being said, looking at the relationship from the perspective that you're at now, after we've had this little discussion, what are the things that you can identify within him that feel like connection to you?
One of the things that he always had was a really good read on me. Like I felt seen entirely with my baggage, whatever you want to call it. He called me out on that a couple of times. And he's like, it's unfair that you have the feelings and the reactions that you do because you don't deserve it, but it's there. That was a big part of it. I think his initial behavior when we were walking up the hill together before he tumbled and fell was very reciprocal and very giving and attentive in the same ways that I am with my relationships and the people that I have in my life. And that felt really nice as well. Now that shifted over time. That's how the initial like, oh, holy shit, like this is everything that I have wanted. And his ability to communicate, honestly, in the beginning was better as well. He would voice his opinions and he could be quite frank and blunt, just like I can. And I'm happy to take it because I toss it. But that was also something that I'm like, okay, well, we're able to communicate with each other. We clearly have the same values and give to people in similar ways, and we can be reciprocal in that. We both see each other.
Yeah. What's interesting is that they're showing me that when he fell off the cliff, it actually surprised him just as much as it surprised you. Like he was giving, and like you said, giving that reciprocal energy, and you were like walking side by side, and all of a sudden he's just like down the cliff and he's like, what just happened? He's almost even surprised by it and doesn't really know what to do with it and why he's there. Once he figures out why he's there, and once he figures out how to get out of the little cavern that he's in, it will help him to get some more clarity on what happened. Okay, do they have any past lives together? They do. Okay. Are they part of soul family together? They are. Okay. That's why you feel this pull to him then. Do they have any soul contracts in this lifetime? They do. Are we meant to know what the soul contracts are? We are not. Okay. That's what I thought. One of the reasons why we wouldn't want to know what our soul contracts are with a person is that it can change the trajectory of what we're there to experience with the person. So on occasion, the guides will definitely keep that information from you for your own protection of the flow of what your life is supposed to do. They're just saying it's not over yet. Give him time. Still hold true to your boundaries and hold true to your authenticity and move forward. But just know that he is going to be coming back into your life at some point. But they're not saying for what reason. I don't know if it's going to be to continue the relationship or for other reasons, but there will be another connecting point. Yeah. Okay. So part of this has to do with your soul too. So your soul basically communicated to his like, hey, like this is what we're here to accomplish. Remember, like this is what we're here to do. And he's like, oh, right. All right. I'm not there yet. So I'm going to go away now. I'm going to come back when I'm ready.
Okay. That's interesting. I mean, he's younger, which was part of the reason why initially I'm like, go away. I've had enough of young men in my life.
Sure.
It never ends well.
Here's the thing about young men at this time. They have a tendency to be much more open to expressing emotion, expressing feelings, having more connected communication. They have a tendency to be more emotionally intelligent. And that is because the generation that raised them saw the damage that happened to men when they weren't able to express and be in that space. The parents raising those children at that time decided to instill that emotional intelligence into some of those people. So it can be a little difficult because you might have this ability from emotional maturity because it's been instilled in them or it's been taught to them, but they're still young, right? And there is only a certain kind of wisdom that comes with age and experience. Mm-hmm. And so while they may understand certain concepts and certain ways of expressing and being emotionally in their connection to their higher self, there still is the element of lack of experience. Okay. Mm-hmm. So obviously obviously this is a broad generalization. Not everybody's like this, but like in my experience so far in my clients' lives and having sessions with men that are in the younger age range, that's what ends up happening. It's like they have this ability and capacity because they've been taught. They just need the experience. So that being said, being with a younger person isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a matter of anchoring in the things that they've learned into actual life experience.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's been all younger, all younger men for the past like decade. So what you're saying in terms of just them being able to recognize emotional maturity, but maybe not necessarily able to act on it yet.
Like put it into practice. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, is that the piece that I like know is there and I'm attracted to? And I'm like, come on, let's go.
Come, you know, you can do it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. It's quite a different thing when you're taught to express your emotions and then actually stepping up and expressing them, right? You can be taught everything in the world about everything, but then when you actually have to go and do it yourself, that's the hard piece, right? Your mom can sit you down and say, you know what, it's really great to be vulnerable and tell somebody that you love them and all of these things. Okay, yeah, that sounds really great. Okay, cool. And then you actually start having those emotions and you have to tell somebody you love them and you're like, oh, like it's really scary to do that. You know, so that you're going to have the normal reactions of emotion as you are moving through life and having those experiences. And then the more they have those experiences, the more they start trusting in themselves and trusting in the fact that, yes, these things are good to express because they get me the outcome or the result of connection, right? Sometimes it is just a bit of an experience that is causing the disconnect.
All right. I won't rule them out entirely.
Yeah. And just, I mean, allow things to unfold the way that you are, not forcing them, but just allowing them to unfold. And if that's what keeps on coming into your experience, then you can always ask your angels and guides, like, hey, what is the reason for all these younger men coming into my life? You know?
That will definitely be a question.
I can tap into the answer right now and see like what the purpose of it has been. They're wanting to answer it partially. They can't answer the whole thing because some of it actually has to do with receptivity. Okay, so there's something in it that has to do with a father wound with you. Looking at older men, there's something about older men for you that doesn't feel comfortable. They're showing me a bunch of older men on one side, a bunch of younger men on the other side. And you're looking at the older men going, I can't teach them. They won't learn from me. And then you're looking at the younger men going, yeah, these guys I can teach. The other ones I can't. And so it is a bit of almost a self-fulfilling prophecy because you're looking at that from the perspective of what can I do to help? When maybe you don't have to ask that question. If you can remove that question from your energy field and just allow yourself to be an experience, it could allow experiences of all kinds. But you're used to being a teacher. You're used to teaching things and helping. It's kind of part of what your soul has done in various incarnations. So it's just a comfort level that you have. You actually do like that feeling. You like that feeling of being, for lack of a better term, like you like being in the know. You like being the one who knows things and you like being around people who want to know things from you. And that's just a natural teaching energy. I'm hearing you like paving the way for people. You like helping them have an easier time of it than you did. And the way that you look at older men is like they're set in their ways. They're not going to change. So it is a combination of a little bit of a limiting belief. You have met a couple of these people, the younger people, because of soul contracts. So that's another aspect of it. And another part of it has to do with the fact that you do like to teach and you move towards the souls that are more open to that. Can I ask you a question? If you were to think about it right now, how would it feel if you dated an older guy?
I mean, I did date an older guy for a while, but it's been 8-9 years ago.
Okay.
I think that I don't know, like there's not I don't know if concern is the right word, but I feel like they're not going to keep up with my energy and the things that I want to do. I feel like there's an imbalance there. And I think to me, I'm like, okay, well, there's still a lot I need to get done and do. And I know that I'm, 40 now, and that's not a spring chicken by society standards, but I'm also not ready to just go through the motions and stop searching. And I feel like a lot of people get complacent maybe when they get older.
So it's a particular way of life or a lifestyle that you're trying to maintain?
I think so. And maybe that's just me projecting on them. But also a lot of it just comes with who are the people that are approaching me.
Absolutely. It's hard to make broad generalizations, but I wanted to kind of take a look at your place where you are now and if you do have any resistance in general to dating somebody who is older.
I mean, I think if they are willing and able to do all the things that I want to do, that sounds weird, but or just maybe selfish, but I would be fine with it. The opportunity hasn't really presented itself yet, so I haven't really addressed it. And the opportunity honestly hasn't presented itself in, like I said,
A while.
a while,
Yeah.
which is why I'm like, okay, well, clearly I'm attracting this. I don't know how, but I am.
Well, it is about your energy. You know, it's about where you are in your energy. And the fact that you are connecting with more youthful energy has to do with where you are, what you're learning, what you're working through. You're just in better energetic alignment with the people that you've been meeting. That's all. Yeah, it's interesting because, for example, they're showing me I had a resistance to men in suits for some reason, like older men in suits. And, you know, my dad wore a suit and tie for many, many decades. And it's not that that was bad for me. Like, I didn't think that he looked bad or that it was a bad thing. I feel like I was in resistance to that for a deeper reason that I didn't understand until I got much older. I was actually resistant to that because I didn't want to end up with somebody who had just a 9-to-5 job and that you would move to the suburbs and have a bunch of kids and just live your life in that way. Like that was never going to be my trajectory. And so for me, I feel like that specifically represented that way of life. And it was my subconscious that was probably resisting that for that reason, because I had a different trajectory for my life. So sometimes when you have a pull towards something or a resistance towards something else, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it means that you are meant to go in that direction for a particular reason. Is it that I find men in suits unattractive? Absolutely not. Men look great in suits. But it's like, it's just what it represented that I was moving away from. So when you're in a space of meeting people, identify where you're resisting, where you're attracting, where you're feeling drawn to, and just kind of look at it from an observer standpoint and say, okay, I can see why I'd be moving towards this person or away from that person. So we're going to take the example of, do you find that since said that to you, that he didn't want to ruin the friendship, that you are feeling more feelings of resistance towards since then?
Probably. Yeah, I mean, that ticked me off.
Yeah.
Like you said, it did. And I'm just like, okay, just go away. Like, and then, of course, you know, he moved 10 doors down and is now inserting himself whenever he can into my life.
Is he actively trying to get back together with you?
No, he's putting out feelers and testing the water, but I've made it pretty clear that that's not an option. So
Got it.
he's doing the dance.
It feels like when the coast is clear, meaning that he's gotten the message, he's very clear in the fact that you don't want to get back together, that this is not going to happen. It is possible that once he moves on, then it'll be sort of coinciding with the same energy of when kind of does the work that he needs to do. And then he might be able to step back in.
Okay. I know that that's a fear of his that he said when we had a conversation about a month and a half ago, because he's like, I know he's going to come back in. He's going to do this. And I was like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, I'm happy to block his number. Like, I do not care. How do I show you that I do not care?
Right.
So I know that that's an insecurity or in a way as well.
Yeah. So wait, so how far away did he move?
Charlotte. So I live in Cincinnati and he's in Charlotte. So it's like a 6.5, 7-hour drive.
Okay, got it. There is something about that as well. Like, you know, he's just getting settled in a new place. Like he's just trying to get his bearings.
Right. Which is understandable. I understand that. And he said that. He's like, you know, I'm 27, just moved to a new place. I want to explore. And I'm like, I've heard this before and I understand. I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's fine. Just, you know, he's going to do what he's going to do. But there will be touch points. You will still connect to each other. Yeah. Okay. So do you have any other questions about anybody else?
The only other question I have about C is just, I'm assuming that soul contract is not quite finished yet. We still got a little bit of work to do.
Did we cover the soul contract with him but last time?
No, because I had to work through it. There wasn't a lot of information given. It was just, you need to work through it.
Okay. All right. Is this something that we can clear in terms of the soul contract? Yes, we can clear it today. Ah, cool. So what I would like you to do is imagine that you are in a field of grass and flowers, and surrounding you is a circle of trees. And in front of you, there appears a door. And I would like you to open the door, and you see a beautiful, brilliant staircase. I want you to ascend the staircase one step at a time until you reach the top of the staircase. And as you reach the top of the staircase, you start to see a space unfolding before you. This is your sacred space. This is a place where your Akashic records are held. It can look any way you choose. You can acknowledge that in the center of the space, there is a book sitting on a pedestal. And I would like you to approach that book. And today we are going to be clearing the soul contract. Okay, so let's take a look at the soul contract and what it was that you needed to accomplish together. Yeah, they're saying to me that it's the reason why he moved so close to you is because he knows the soul contract is done and he is not wanting it to be done because he knows this is the ending of the connection. The really interesting thing, though, is that just because a soul contract is done doesn't mean that you have to stop connecting with the person. It just means that the reason why you came into this lifetime together is done. But there are plenty of people that continue having relationships even after soul contracts are done. But like for him, like he took it in a totally different way, which is why you were resisting him in a big way, because he took the soul contract completion as, oh my God, I'm losing her entirely. So he was reacting to the energy. Okay. So the soul contract is complete from her end. Yes. Is the soul contract complete from his end? Yes. Okay. That's why we can clear it out entirely. Yes. Okay. Got it. So what was the soul contract to begin with? What were they here to help each other with? She was here to help him see the light in where he was diminishing himself, where he was standing in his wounding. She was here to shine the light on every crevice and crack that he had in his energy field. Everywhere there was energy leakage, everywhere that there was a soul fragment that had been given to him or that he had given to somebody else. Part of that soul contract was returning one of the soul fragments that he had given to her long ago. That was one of the main reasons why she incarnated with him in this lifetime, is to return the soul fragment, but also to be able to show him where he needed to grow and where he needed to do the work. His soul contract to her was to help her see where her boundaries were weak, to help her show others the strength and fortitude that she has within herself. It was almost as if he was coaxing it out of you. They're saying like poking the bear until finally you brought your strength out. He may not show it, but because he was able to help you with this and because you completed the soul contract, he's very proud of the person you've become. And he just wants to bask in who you are, which is a complete distraction for him and what he's meant to do, which is why you are actually pushing him away as hard as you are, because you are really distracting him from what he is meant to do. You're essentially like your last act in this soul contract is to just push him back on his path. Okay. So what I would like you to imagine is that you are signing your Akashic records, stating that you release any and all soul contracts that are connected to him. And you can state his name in the book. I release any and all soul contracts with him with gratitude and with grace. It is done. Okay. All right. How does that feel?
Good. It feels good. I'm emotional.
Yeah. Do you know where the emotion is coming from?
I think it's gratitude.
Yeah. And recognizing that you had a role to play with each other.
Gratitude and love. And maybe just in a way sad that it's over, but also thankful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now what this does is it frees up the energy. So if you were to choose to be friends with him or connect with him in any way, you can. It is your free will to do so. It's just without the weight or connection of the soul contract that is sort of guiding things in your connection. Okay. Yeah. So they're asking me to ask you right now to connect in with your heart and ask your guides again. Is it in your highest good to take the workshop with me in August of 2025?
This is my head and my heart.
All right. Well, let's try a little exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to imagine a divine cord of light coming from the top of your head and allow that to sort of ease down into your brain. And I want you to ask your brain that question. And what does your brain say?
My brain says yes, but I want to be able to give the time that it deserves to it. And I don't know that I'll be able to do that.
Okay. So then let's move that energetic cord from your brain all the way down into your heart space, that beautiful, brilliant cord of light into your heart. And what does your heart say?
My heart says yes. I feel like I'm ready and wanting to learn and to grow and to move past a lot of things.
Okay. So it is up to you if you want to take it in this session or you want to wait till next year. The time that you want to dedicate to it, I would say that realistically, you're obviously going to be on the 2-hour call once a week. And then each week you would have to allot probably 1 hour at the bare minimum of getting on a call with other members in the group to practice the skills. Okay.
Okay.
It would be at minimum 3 hours a week, and you'd get a really good base and you'd be able to get a lot of information and practice out of the course. I have a group of people from the first session, and they're still on the Telegram group together, and they still connect with each other even now, saying, hey, let's get together and practice. Can we practice together? So like it continues even past the course where you can connect with those other people to be able to practice. So you can dedicate as much time or as little as the 3 hours. So that'll just give you sort of an idea of how much time you would have to allot, and then you can make the decision from there.
Okay.
All right. A lot of people have gone back to the videos, gone back to the replays and things like that after the fact and done some more work. So not all the work has to be done immediately, because the reason why I stretched it out to 3 months to begin with is because it really needs time for this information to integrate. And one of the modules that we go through is going through fears and limiting beliefs and rewriting those stories in your head.
Mm-hmm.
We cover that for a week. That can sometimes take months, years, decades, right? So like it's a constant thing that we're doing. It's like what I'm doing is I'm giving you the tools that you need in order to do those things, right? So it is an ongoing process, just to let you know.
Okay. I have travel that I'm doing, but it sounds like if things are recorded, then I just need to schedule a time to touch base with somebody on a weekly basis or whatever it might be.
Exactly.
I think that's doable. It's just like not, I don't know if that particular time is going to work each, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
We haven't set a time or day of the week yet. Basically, once everybody signs up, I'll gather everybody together and say, okay, what are the best times for everybody? And we'll pick a time that works best for everyone.
Okay. Okay,
right.
Cool.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions?
This is a big one. I'm glad. I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to do anything like that soul contract today. So that feels really good. I feel like I've grown.
Good. Amazing.
Is there anything that I'm not asking that I need to ask? Or is there anything about my life purpose, soul origin, anything around there that I need to understand or be? I'm very good at transmuting energies, and part of my soul purpose is to kind of travel around a lot and identify energies that need help, but I don't do the healing. And so I just kind of transmute on the edges of my energy, not holistically. And that's why a lot of people are drawn to me at times, because I'm very good at clearing the energy around me, so it feels safe. Life purpose, I don't think we really dove into that much, other than just kind of talking about what I just talked about. I know eventually later on in life I'll be traveling more and be working towards that a little bit more, but it sounded like it was a gradual thing that would happen over time. And there wasn't anything I needed to do immediately to shift course. I just needed to keep going through the motions.
Okay, so let me see if they have any messages for you about the life purpose. They're saying no. I mean, as long as you are good with your trajectory right now, just continue the course. They're saying your life purpose doesn't have anything to do with a past life, which is great. It's something that you've sort of used as a means to forward your spiritual growth. Yeah, so part of your life purpose has just been to elevate your frequency. That's the main portion of what you're here to do. Oh, it's interesting. All right. Your energy field is slightly held back by the collective energies of ascension. So each little step the earth and humanity takes to ascend further, you're like, finally, I can ascend further than that. You know, like it's almost like you're tethered to it. So like you can only ascend so far, where you actually have the potential to ascend pretty high at the moment. You're not able to because you're tethered. You're tethered to the earth. And that's a bit frustrating for you sometimes, because you feel like you can go so high, but like you just, yeah, you can't because you're grounded here. It's interesting.
Is there a reason for that, or is that just the way it is?
Just the way it is. Yeah.
Okay.
So like we can only ascend so far in the density of this energy. Even if like you were the highest, purest form of yourself at this moment, you could only go so far, because once you get to a certain place, it's like the density of earth and the density of the collective is just something that cannot be removed. Like you can't live in a bubble, even though sometimes we try. Like you can't live in a bubble that is completely unaffected by the energies of the earth and the people around you.
Okay. That's particular to me, or that's particular to everybody?
I mean, that's everyone, but
okay.
You specifically, because of the type of soul that you are, have the ability to rise up very quickly. So that's why it's like you get to that edge and you're like waiting. come on, come on, come on, Earth, come on, people, let's ascend a little bit further. And then you do, and you're like, yay, I can go now. And so you go and you finish and you get it done very quickly. So imagine, what's a really good analogy? Give me a good analogy, angels. I don't even know how to describe this, but okay. So like imagine you're in an obstacle course, okay? And you're running and you come across a giant wall. And you know in this obstacle course, you have to wait until that wall goes down in order for you to go to the next place. So you're waiting, you're waiting, you're waiting. The wall goes down, you sprint to the next wall. Whereas everyone else around you is very languidly, slowly walking to the next wall. Okay. So you're already at the next wall waiting for that wall to come down. Meanwhile, everybody behind you is just like walking through mud. You're waiting, 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 waiting. The next wall goes down and you're like, cool, I can go to the next one. So then you run and then you're like up against the next wall again. It's just you can go through these energies much faster than most people. So you end up waiting a lot longer than most people. Whereas most people are just kind of trudging through the mud. And by the time they get to the wall's down and they're like, oh, all right, cool. I can keep on going.
That's why I'm so impatient.
Yep, it is. Yeah. You don't have a really good ability to gauge yourself. Like you could technically, pace yourself and not have to wait, but you just don't. And that's okay. You just have to get good at the waiting.
Waiting. Okay.
So they're showing me, it's a really funny analogy. They're showing me like you're standing at the wall at the obstacle course. And instead of just staring at the wall going, come on, come down, come down, come down. They're like, go get some crayons, go draw a picture on that wall, decorate it with some glitter, have some fun, maybe do a little dance. You know what I mean? Like, don't just sit there waiting, like do something fun with that time.
I feel like that's a theme for my life right now. I need to enjoy the slowness and start doing the things that bring me joy to occupy my time. Not that I don't, but just doing more of those things and making sure that I'm doing more of those things instead of just sitting in it and waiting. Because I feel like the past few months, which has been good to have some calm, I've just been kind of sitting and waiting. And I'm like, okay, come on. And now I'm like, all right, I just need to like get up and I'll just do everything and it'll hit when it's supposed to hit.
Totally. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. I think the fear for me right now is, and this is what I'm trying to sit in, is do I just go do all the things that I want to do and not wait and things will happen the way they're supposed to happen? Or is there's that fear of like missing out on that person or that partner? Because I've recognized that that's something that I want, even though I've pushed it away for a really long time. Because even when I was younger, I'm like, I'll be fine if I'm single for the rest of my life. And as I've gotten older and I'm like, actually, no, I actually do want somebody.
Well, what is it about the fear of missing the person? Where is that coming from?
Honestly, if I think about it, it doesn't really make sense. And I don't know that I'm entirely sure. Maybe it's that I'm putting myself in situations, or if I'm traveling a lot or whatever it might be, if I'm moving a lot, it doesn't give me enough time to sit and focus on something and actually really search to find something. And I recognize I'm unwilling. I hate dating apps. I'm unwilling to just like scroll through and like go on dates constantly. That's just not what I want to do with my time. But is that what I should be doing with my time as opposed to doing the things that I want to do with my life, going to concerts, traveling, experiencing new things, whatever it is? Of course, there's criticism of like, well, why aren't you trying this? And why aren't you trying this? And I'm like, well, my whole life isn't just like finding a person. That's a piece that I want, but like, I don't want it to be consuming.
It's in the expression of all of the things that you love and that you love to do where you will find this person. You're not going to find this person sitting at home waiting. Even if you are scrolling or trying all sorts of different dating things, like even if you are doing those things, you're not going to find the person that you want to connect with, because the person that you want to connect with is out there living their life in that beautiful energy the way that you are.
Yeah, that's what I kept telling myself, or what I keep telling myself.
Yeah. The challenge is not having the expectation. So going and do the things you truly want to do just because you want to do them versus going and doing them because there is a potential to meet somebody.
Right.
Release the expectation of how this is going to happen, what's going to come in, how the person is going to come in, that kind of thing. Like you said, people saying, oh, why have you tried this? Have you done this? Have you done this? It puts a lot of ideas in your head of like, well, okay, yeah, okay, maybe I need to try this. Maybe I need to do this. Maybe I need to do, I don't know, speed dating, or maybe I need to like go out and join a singles trip or something like that. They put these expectations in our heads that aren't even ours. Try to release any words, energy from anyone else that you have come across that are giving you suggestions. It's not that they're bad suggestions. They're good suggestions for the most part, but like, or at least they're well-meaning suggestions, but you need to follow your intuition and your heart and what feels good for you. What is going to attract this person to you is you being in the full expression of your joy and who you are. Does that sound doable?
Very doable. I'll just keep living.
Amazing. All right. So we are going to close the Akashic Records. Thank you so much to Akula, my Akashic guide. Thank you to Archangel Metatron and Archangel Sandalphon for being here as well. Thank you for all of the beautiful work we did today. The records are closed. The records are closed. The records are closed. Thank you. All right. How do you feel?
Relieved and lighter. Yeah. And a little bit more in tune with me. A lot of the past life stuff that we talk about today, I'm like, oh, that's me. Oh, that's me. Oh, I do that. I care. Like, I'm concerned about people's behaviors and why they do the things they do. And yeah, so it's interesting to draw those connections with who I am in this current life.
Beautiful. Amazing.
So thank you very much.
We didn't cover the past life with the throat chakra, but I feel like we didn't necessarily have to.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's just going to sort of work its way through on its own. As you start coming more into your vulnerability and your authenticity, it's going to come in with the balance that it needs, the balance of being able to express what you want to express without it being super harsh, but also being true to how you feel. Right. They're showing me it's almost like if you need to set a boundary, it's like you set a hard boundary, but then you try to sprinkle it with glitter to make it not so harsh. Once you get to balance, you don't have to do that as much because you are able to set it with compassion or set that boundary with compassion while still standing in your authenticity. So it's just practice. It's just something you need to work on in that respect, and it'll eventually work itself out.
Okay.
All right. Wonderful.
Okay. Thank you very much for everything. I appreciate you. And I guess I'll be talking to you soon.
All right. Sounds great.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Once again, I have so much gratitude to Hannah for allowing me to record her session for the podcast. Where are you in terms of your intuition? Are you pretty confident in your intuition? Do you know that your intuition is completely foolproof and you follow it all the time? I'm guessing no, because it is something that is very difficult to do on a regular basis because we are always toggling back and forth between our brain, our thoughts, our mind, and our intuition or our hearts. It is something that we can learn to work with seamlessly. And it is something that we can start to move into the flow of the energy of our intuition. But as we heard in this session, just because we follow our intuition doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lead to an outcome that we desire. Sometimes it leads to an outcome that may need to happen for other people. It may be something that is teaching us a lesson of some sort. Where in this case with Hannah in this past lifetime, this was allowing her to see where she was in her ego or her intellect. And when she was in her energy of control, thinking that she could control the outcomes of things. And we sometimes think that that is what is happening when we follow our intuition, that we are carving out what we want to have as an experience in this life. And while that may be the truth for some of the things that we do, it's not always the best thing for us. And let me explain. Following your intuition is always the best option, but it may be at odds with what your brain or your intellect is telling you is the right thing for you. The exercise that I did with Hannah is the exercise that I use myself to be able to connect into my heart space. And I recommend that you use that exercise when you are trying to determine whether something is simply a thought or is it your intuition. I'm currently in session with Soul Discovery Workshop, and one of my attendees asked me about thoughts and what role they have in your intuition. And imagination, what role that has in our intuition. And I want to clarify that when we follow our intuition, when we get these messages from our guides, we are not trying to just clear our mind like you would during mindfulness or meditation. Because if you're just clearing your mind, you're not allowing the messages to come through. The mind is part of the intuition. So is your feeling, your body, your hearing, all of those clairs that we've talked about often. Those are all part of your antenna, if you will, your receptors to the information. You've heard me time and again throughout this podcast that my guides will use my own life as an example. They will use cartoons, Disney cartoons. They will use television shows. They will use anything that I know in my brain to be able to express what the concept is, what the message is. Allow that to come through for you when you're following your intuition. As a general rule, I typically say that if you are uncertain, whether it is a thought or your intuition, just wait. Wait, relax, come back to it, come back to the decision, come back to the idea, whatever it happens to be, and connect in again. Because that's the whole thing about our intuition, is that it's typically not in a hurry. We have time to follow the path, to figure things out, to make the right decision, if you will. And I even hesitate to say that because there is really no right or wrong decision. It is often about whether you're on your path or not on your path. We often want to predict things, predict the future. And I have often talked about that subject as well, that we cannot accurately predict the future in all cases. Where we can shine in predicting the future is often with destiny points, because those are usually more fixed points within our experience. But everything else in between is very movable, very changeable. And when you get a future prediction, it is simply just a snapshot of where you are in that very moment. And that can change in a second. That can change in a day or 6 days, but it can change. I have had many of my clients come to me and say that what I predicted was going to happen 2 years ago has actually, in fact, happened. And that's really great. And I'm really happy when I hear those comments. But I do know of certain things that I have said to certain clients that have not come true. And that doesn't have to do with the accuracy of the message. It has to do with the decisions or the outside influences or the timelines. Maybe that thing didn't come to fruition for my client because there was something better that aligned for that person. And I'm always the first person to say also that we are human. So of course we can make mistakes. So there can be aspects where we might get things a little off base. And I mean, we as in all of us, when we're tapping into our intuition and possibly trying to predict the future. The best possible course of action for this practice is to let go, is to be able to allow your angels and guides to guide you, show you which direction to go. And if you're not receiving too much information right now, that's okay. That means that you're probably on your right path and just keep doing what you're doing. Sometimes we can get a little too wrapped up in the aspects of this spiritual life, like manifesting things for ourselves, trying to predict what's going to happen, trying to find the best possible outcome. And unfortunately, sometimes that can lead to a lot of control. And control is the one thing that the universe doesn't really work well with. So you need to allow the flow to happen. Control is a restricting energy. It holds back what might be trying to birth itself for you. If you have any questions about connecting in with the heart, connecting with your intuition, if you want to learn how to do it more effectively, you can certainly join the waitlist for Soul Discovery Workshop. That is exactly what we do in that course. Learn how to connect to your soul, to your intuition, to the Akashic Records. I encourage you to do your own exploration, try some of these exercises, and feel free to share with me any experiences you might have. What does it mean to be in love? If you take the words simply as they are, to be in love, it means to be in the energy of love. But that is not often how it is meant in our society, in our relationships. I want to channel some more information about the aspects of being in love, because I feel like it is an old energy that needs to be updated. When you tell somebody that you are in love with them, do you really know what that means? Is it really that you are in love with them, or is it that you are attached to them? Or does it mean that there is that desire, attraction, sexual connection, that feeling of always being connected to that person? For example, if there's somebody that you've had many past lives with, you could feel that intrinsic soul connection with that person. But does that really mean that you are in love? What does it mean for you? Have you ever asked yourself that question? I had an experience recently where I was speaking to a client and they were upset that their partner had not told them that they loved them yet. And my response was essentially to Identify the behaviors that are happening. Identify the stage that they're in the relationship. And why is that particular word so important to be spoken at that very moment for that person? If everything is going really well in a relationship and everything is moving forward and you're happy and there's communication that is mutual, there is energy that is mutual, then what is it about hearing that word from somebody that is going to solidify things for you that the behavior and the energy hasn't done already? A lot of times we as humans, we hang on to those words as almost a contract, a solidification. Well, if this person says that they love me or that they're in love with me, then that means that we are finally fully together. But how many times has that been said and the relationship breaks apart, the foundation crumbles, and things do not end up working out the way that you want them to? There is an aspect of needing to communicate as humans, and that is something that will always be the case, although it will change. When you are in lust or have sexual connection or past life connection, that is a different energy than love. Those energies can have aspects of love. Love can be contained within those experiences. We are talking about what it means to be in love with another person. As we spoke about in the session, being in love with another is about accepting them unconditionally. It is about trusting them intrinsically, being able to be fully present, fully vulnerable, expressive in your feelings, expressive in your gratitude and what you share together, being able to express your needs and understanding your partner's needs and coming together in an energy that is symbiotic in its giving and receiving, where you are both able to stand in your divine masculine and divine feminine together and have it complement one another. Being in love is being able to pass that baton back and forth if you are going through challenges, helping each other through those challenges, being able to allow each person to have their experience that they are meant to have, all while offering support if it is needed. Being in love is expressed in different ways through different people. It cannot be expressed in one way. And the expectation of it being expressed in one way is unrealistic. A majority of the population of women on this planet expect their partners to say that they are in love with them. But oftentimes what is being overlooked is the behavior, the way in which this person is showing up in this relationship. And maybe they are fulfilling all of the things that they want in this relationship, but they are just not saying the words, I love you, or I am in love with you. There have been countless accounts of couples breaking up because those words are not spoken, but yet every other aspect of the relationship is harmonious. When that happens, you are missing the point of the connection. If you are hyper focused on one particular thing that needs to happen in the relationship, if you are waiting for that proposal, if you're waiting to get married, waiting for the I love you, are you so hyper focused on all of those things that you are ignoring everything else that is going on within the relationship? Ask yourself that question. Ask yourself, what does love mean to me? How is love expressed through me? And how is love expressed through my beloved? A lot of these feelings that people can have about saying I love you comes with fear. Fear of rejection, fear of the person not wanting to commit, when in fact, maybe they're just not there yet. Who is to say that you cannot be in love with somebody and allow that love to grow over the course of months or years and still not know the full definition of what it means to love that person? Because that love is going to shift and change and evolve over time. So the first I love you is going to mean something very different than the last I love you. I love you is something that people just say because they do. It's habit. You say I love you when you hang up the phone, when you depart from somebody. But do you know what it feels like to love that person? Do you feel it? Do you feel that connection in your heart? Or are you just going through the motions? These are all things that are important to consider when we talk about being in love. And what is fascinating is that you would never use that term for a platonic relationship or a family member. And that is something else to think about as well. to be in love with someone, you are indicating that you are in a sexual relationship with this person, that you are in a connection, a divine connection, if you will, with this person, that you have chosen to walk your path with this person. But every relationship, every connection is the same. You show up in your vulnerability when you have love present. You show up in your joy and your happiness and your laughter when there is love. You show up in your pain and your grief and your sadness, your shame and your guilt where there is love. You show up in all of these different facets of yourself with another. It is all love. Some love is deeper than others. Some love is based on a soul connection. Some love isn't. There are varying degrees of love. Some love will take lifetimes to grow, and some love just exists between two people. It is not something for you to judge or decide. It is something for you to feel. It is something for you to understand specifically about yourself and how you give and receive love and how you determine what love is for you. Try to stay out of judgment of somebody else's journey in love. And if they're not exactly where you are in that journey of love, allow them to have their experience. And if you are meant to let them go with grace, let them go with grace and love, knowing that they will continue on their path. Love is who we are at our core, at our highest vibration. Being in love is being at our highest vibration, at our most vulnerable and our most authentic with another. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I look forward to connecting with you for our next new episode.
If you're enjoying this podcast, it would be really amazing if you could like, share, and subscribe. Wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's Apple or Spotify, feel free to give it a review if you feel called. If you are following me on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you are notified for every single new episode of the Akashic Recordings. If you feel called to book a session with me, you can always reach me at infinitesoullove.com, and you can book directly on my website. Thank you so much for all of your support, and I can't wait to connect with you next week.